listening to Changing Reality. Changing Reality, where we bend reality all across the world. Only on WQHS Radio. Welcome all to another episode of Changing Reality. For all of our returning members of the audience, thank you again for joining us. As always, it's a pleasure to have you here with us. And for all of our new members of the audience, where have you been all this time? Don't you know that this is the place to be, to hear the best stories, the best experiences, and get yourself just the right dose of inspiration that you need to change your own reality? So in this show, we have the pleasure of inviting phenomenal speakers from all across the world, different paths, industries, experiences, with the goal of hopefully picking their brains for nuggets of wisdom that we can use to shorten our own learning curves. It's a show that I personally am very, very passionate about, simply because I believe that there is a magic in stories and experiences that cannot be replicated. It is something that not just inspires, but teaches and sticks in our minds as we go ahead and venture forth in the world. So I know a lot of people have many questions, have many industries that they want to explore. And if you have specific thoughts or specific things that you want to discover, make sure that you're reaching out to us at the show and that we can best support you by bringing those stories to life here on WQHS Radio. So for all of you who are tuning in and are new to the show, Changing Reality is a place where you can listen to these brilliant experiences and explore the magic of stories yourself. Stories have been something that have been personal to my life and has really changed the course in the way that I've seen the world. I'm your host, Harsha, and the DJ behind this particular segment at WQHS. And as I said, stories has been kind of the common thread that has enabled me to do the things that I do. Other than being a junior at Penn, I actually am a social entrepreneur. I run a social enterprise called Ascendance that works with over 50,000 students across 26 countries with the goal of creating experiential learning opportunities for at-risk students to learn about the world around them, discover what are their skills and talents, and get the right experiences and experiential learning opportunities to actually start their careers while in school. And I've been fortunate to be able to do that for the last 8 years since I was in high school, building into a global organization because of kind individuals who've been taking their time out to share with me their stories and their successes. And just like that, I hope that this shows the same platform for you and that all of you get that inspiration you need to do what the amazing things that you want to do as well. So on today's speaker is someone who I was personally mind blown that he agreed to be on the show, not gonna lie. And simply because as someone who is part of the radio and part of a lot of the media teams at Penn, sometimes I feel like, we don't talk enough about this industry and its multiple dimensions. And when we think about entertainment, when we think about media, we can be a little bit of a one-track mind on that. So today we're going to uncover an extremely interesting perspective. Our guest speaker today is not short of brilliant experiences. He is the Chief Operating Officer at Ole Distribution, a company of Ole Communications that distributes an iconic portfolio of diverse television channels throughout Latin America. These channels include A&E, AXN, History, History 2, Lifetime, Sony Movies, and many others as well. Prior to that and his role here, he also served as the Vice President of the Global Distribution Business Development for Latin America at AMC Sundance Channel Global, the international division of AMC Network. And even prior to that, he has had brilliant experiences in entertainment as well, serving as Vice President and Regional Counsel for Discovery Communications, managing all their legal and regulatory matters affecting the company's business in Latin America and the Hispanic markets in the U.S. as well. And prior to that as well was the Senior Director of Legal Affairs for HBO Latin America Group. He began his career as an attorney at White & Case, and before that was a student at the University of Pennsylvania where he earned his law degree. So to learn a little bit more about the amazing experiences behind the man himself, let's welcome our phenomenal guest speaker onto our virtual stage. Hello, how are you doing today?
Hi, Harsha. Great to see you.
Well, I appreciate you joining in. Reading your bio is basically like going through and picking out what streaming platform I want to watch today. It's like you are at all the big hits. I'm just, amazed. As I said, I'm going to go home and look at each app and be like, he did all that. I'm just a
consumer around the industry.
Well, hopefully you're having a great, beginning of your day. I know it's in the morning, so you've had your cup of coffee before we can, shoot you down with all the hard-hitting questions. And, as I said, this show is very special to me. It's having you here is amazing because I think our team behind the scenes are all interested in media in some way or form. So before we start, I think we have to ask you the hardest question to begin. Favorite musician and favorite movie of all time?
Well, I think, I love music and I love movies, which is why I think I ended
And same figured, yeah.
in the position that I am. So that would normally be a tough question because I like so many bands and I like so many movies. But in this case, for me, it's easy because I have two clear choices on both sides. And they're probably cliched. And I was a kid from the '80s and '90s and stuff. So in terms of movies. The first movie that blew me away, that made me want to get into the entertainment industry, which I saw, when I was in a summer camp in 1981, I guess, and they took us all to the movie theater, and I saw this thing on the screen, and I had never seen anything like it, and it made me want to be a movie director. Was Raiders of the Lost Ark, and I know it's a very cliched movie, but just as I guess 8-year-old kid, that movie blew me away, and it really made me love Hollywood. I think Steven Spielberg had a big effect on all the people from my generation, for sure.
I don't blame you. That is the right answer. If there was a right answer, it would be that. Now you have to give us as good of an answer for musician.
So music is probably probably the most cliched answer ever. But again, since an early age, I love this band in every stage of their career, and I really think that they perfected pop music, and so it's the obvious answer of the Beatles. But I just feel that every music that's come since then has been some sort of derivative of what of the I guess format that they created, or playbook that they created. And I just think that the way that they mastered melodies, and just even later on the instrumentation, and just orchestration of songs, and creating albums and concept albums, and just pretty much created the roadmap for the next 40 years of popular music. I thought was just amazing. So another cliched answer, but definitely the Beatles for me.
Okay, so you took the blueprints and you're like, this is it. I'm gonna be in these industries. I'm gonna, I've studied the thing. These two things were enough to inform me. And then, today, looking back, did you ever think that you would be in entertainment and music when you were in high school, or, going into that college age as well? I mean, all of us kind of secretly dreamed that one day we're going to get that call and be like, hey, it's your turn now to be on American Idol. But like, do you think like that this was a career that you would have all those many years ago?
Well, it's interesting. I've always been a dreamer, and when I was in high school, I formed a rock. But it was I guess the '90s, so it was an alternative band. So I played guitar in an alternative local band, and during my high school years, and the beginning, and during college as well. We would play. Started in high school, we used to play, high school dances and things like they used to have back then, and then when we got into college, we were playing, different university battle of the bands, and we started playing bars, and we started playing places in South Beach, and in my mind, I was convinced we were going to get signed by a label, and that was the future. So I was that to me was the dream, and I believed it because at that age, why not? So yeah, I think in my mind, I thought that we were going to get signed, and that was the career path. So yeah, I mean, I believed it, but I guess at that age, you kind of believe all sorts of things.
Yeah, I'm believing those things right now. So like, I'm like give me some hope here in a sense. But no, that is absolutely amazing. I can imagine you, going to the venues, like, having those shows and so on. Like, I think I told you, my sister is a musician. So like just last
Yes.
semester, she was doing her little East Coast tour of like, just the venues that we could find, like from Queens to Philadelphia to Boston. And I was the roadie. So I joke that as younger sibling, I am like mic stand, photographer, like
Great.
carrier of all things in a sense. So I feel that is such a meaningful experience for me, and I can only imagine it was amazing for you. We have this photo of you from performing at Penn when you were there. Okay, well, again, I was just joking. Like, it's unfair that you and your friends were cooler than me and my friends. Just saying. Like, we got to step up our game here, gang. But tell me a little bit about coming to Penn, having that passion for music, and what did that mean for you as an individual? As we said earlier, you were a law student, and no offense, but I don't really think of law when I think of guitar, first of all. But what was it like, having those two facets of your life and being in that early journey of being in college, both from the bachelor's time before that and going to Penn afterwards.
Sure. So, I did my undergraduate at the University of Miami, and I was a history major because I've always loved history, and that's another little passion of mine, and I've always enjoyed reading history books and biographies and that kind of thing. So I majored in history, and again, like I told you, my mind, the path was to rock and roll stardom, but as reality started to kick in, and I was about to graduate from undergrad, I had to do something, and what do you do with a history major? And so I took the LSAT, and I did really well on it, so I got a really high score on the LSAT, and then so I applied to a bunch of good law schools, and I got into to several of them, including Penn. And I went to visit Penn Law, and I loved it. I really fell in love with the environment. It's a special law school. I think it's different than other law schools. It's much smaller. It's much more congenial. At least that's the way it sold itself, and it was true. I mean, my experience there was absolutely wonderful. So, I started as a first-year law student. It wasn't something, like I said, that I had always dreamed about being a law student. When I got there, all these people, they always dreamed of being lawyers because, in the 80s, there was this TV show called LA Law, and everybody loved LA Law, and they all wanted to be lawyers because they saw this TV show, LA Law. And, I never saw the show. It wasn't
You were watching Raiders of the Lost Ark, yeah.
I was watching MTV, and, but I just, I kind of went because I didn't know what else to do, and I got into a good school, and I went there. But I encountered there. You were saying you can't picture, or I guess, combine law with law students with guitar playing. There are a bunch of musicians that they're in law. In fact, there are people from all walks of life. They're former NFL players. They're in law school. There's former doctors. There's people who have been in the Olympics. There's been people who have been concert pianists. And so I think law school attracts, especially a good law school like Penn, attracts people from all walks of life, and successful people from all walks of life. So when we got there, I got together with other, law school musicians, and we formed a band just for fun in law school. And we had a really cheesy name because there was this one old, like, British jurist called Learned Hand. And all these things, we're quoting Learned Hand, so we were Learned Band. It was a cheesy name, and we had a lot of fun playing until our drummer graduated. Then we didn't have a drummer, so then it was a short-lived project.
You could have gone acoustic, but like obviously law treated you well. We have a few more photos of you at Penn, visiting museums
with hair. I had hair back then.
Oh, do you think just you are obviously a fantastic lawyer, and we'll get into that in a second, but do you think having that musical background, or just like, what did music teach you, not just in law, but in your career afterwards, did you think really set you up? I mean, some people say, sports, it teaches them discipline, or, arts, it teaches them creativity. What did music teach you?
Well, I think the creativity part, as you mentioned, is very important because I think most successful lawyers are creative. And I think what law school really teaches you is how to think. I think law school teaches you how to think in different perspectives, and I think a lot of times, you could ask the same question to three different people, and the three different people hear three different questions, they're interpreted a different way. And I think what law school teaches you is how to, look at all those three perspectives and realize that, one sentence can mean 10 different things depending on who the person hearing it is. So I think law school really teaches you how to think that way, how to think like a lawyer. So I think that analysis it requires creativity, and I think when you're a musician and you're learning songs, and I think it broadens your mind in a way that I think it helps for that kind of thinking. And really, it helps you relax because first year law school is stressful, and when you've got an outlet, obviously, and music is a great outlet and a great, for me, de-stressifier. So that obviously makes going to law school more palatable, right?
Okay. No, I'm again not gonna argue on that one. I agree on. Like, music is keeping me alive, like, for the last few semesters, and I highly recommend if anyone is stressed out to, like, maybe not learn to play the guitar like right away. That's a little stressful by itself, but like hang out at all the music spots. We'll give Rex later. As you were kind of moving out of college, as you were completing the law degree, thinking of next steps, what were the things that you were considering? How did you kind of decide what the next move was for you? especially because you have this talent in both things. So where did you decide your next step would take you?
So look, I really enjoyed law school when I was there. I mean, the friends that I made, the theory behind all the law, and just kind of it all. So I felt like I got it, and I found it interesting, but I didn't know what kind of practice I wanted to do. I didn't know if I wanted to, be a litigator and go to court, or a lot of people going into corporate law, transactional. I mean, I was never good at math, so I thought, well, I don't know, could I be a corporate or business lawyer when I don't really, have that kind of strength. My strength has always been more in, reading and, literature and history and that type of and arts, that type of thing. But frankly, and it's a very crass answer, I would say, was, I kind of went to the law firm that offered me the most money.
I mean, at least you tell us the truth. Like, let's be a little realistic here. Like, I agree.
I was, the son of Cuban immigrants in Miami. I grew up, I would say lower middle class at most, and when somebody all of a sudden offers you that amount of money, it's shocking to someone that grew up like me and in my circumstance. So I kind of went for the money. I didn't know what and so I went to go work for a very large New York law firm that was based in Miami. So I wanted to go back home to Miami, and they had an office there that was mostly focused on corporate work in Latin America. So I joined the Latin American corporate practice group, and then I was doing mergers and acquisitions and big financing agreements and private equity and stuff, and things that I had no idea what the hell I was doing at the time, and just I kind of jumped into that field, and really it was nuts. I mean, at that point, the hours were insane. As a first year lawyer, you're basically, I don't know how many plans I had to cancel, how many nights I ate dinner at the office. I mean, at that time, Miami has changed a lot and evolved a lot. But back then, there was only like one restaurant in like the downtown Miami area that delivered food at night. Just one Italian restaurant. So I got to a point where I couldn't even smell that place, because it was the place I would eat. But looking back at it, we had a core group of lawyers all working, and we would pull all-nighters, and we would all complain, but it created a bond. I guess we were all like, almost like army buddies in a sense. And, we would go after work, like at 4 or 5 in the morning to this bar called Tobacco Road on Brickell, which was the bar that actually was a bar that had the first liquor license ever in Miami. And it was the bar that closed the latest. So they closed at 6 a.m. So,
we'd leave there. The lawyers out there.
Yeah. Go to that place. And so yeah, I mean, it was a lot of work, but, it really taught me the importance of having a good work ethic and how to work well with other people, really, which I think are two of the most important skills that I think have helped me become successful in my career. Right?
It's kind of funny. I'm pretty sure there's a show out there about being a lawyer in Miami, and like I'm willing to bet with you of like all the combinations of places and careers. I'm sure there's a show out there on that. What do you think was the most unexpected thing about having that first role, having that first job, that the movies and TV shows don't talk about for all of us looking at our first roles and transitioning in? What shocked you?
I think it was probably the amount of work. I don't think I was prepared to work so hard. It was a good wake up call to reality. And it was shocking. It was also a good way of, I think, of teaching, showing me, I can't. This is great training. This is intense, but this is definitely not the path for me. I don't think I want to. At that point, I said, I don't think my road lies in being, a partner at a large law firm. It wasn't something that was exciting me. It was. I did enjoy more the camaraderie, like I said, and the relationships that I formed. And the interesting thing is, I never dreamed that I would get into the entertainment industry, at that point, because I didn't really have any connections in the industry. I just didn't think that was in the stars for me. But, since I've always been such a, nerd about these things, I had a reputation in the law firm of being, if you need a song lyric, any song lyric or any movie quote, go talk to Gus. He'll know it. So I did kind of develop this reputation of being kind of like a movie, TV, and music nerd, which eventually was the path that sent me to my first job in television, because I worked hard at the firm. Like I said, I worked hard, and I think I got along well with the people I worked with. And there was a senior associate who was almost a partner at the firm. It was on the real estate side, and he had a client which was HBO, and HBO was had just they had launched a Latin American business, launching the HBO and Cinemax channels in Latin America, and they had hired White and Case to represent them in a deal where they were going to buy some land in South Florida to build an uplink center, to where they kind of send a signal up to the satellite to then beam it down to all of the cable operators in Latin America. And so my friend, the senior associate, was representing HBO at the time, and then he came to me one day and said, "Look, my client HBO is looking for an in-house counsel for Latin America. You have a really good reputation of being a hard worker in this firm, and of producing good work. And I know you love this stuff. Don't tell the partners I told, but I want to make my client happy. Would you be interested in applying for this?" And for me, I was like, "Oh my God, HBO! I mean, this is how does this happen?" So really, I went. It was an interesting week because I went. I had been 4 years at White and Case at that time, and I went to interview. I think it was on a Wednesday. On a Wednesday, I went to interview, or a Wednesday or Thursday. Then I went back to interview again on, I think, on Friday. Then I went to a third round, like on Tuesday. They made me the offer on Wednesday. I quit on Thursday. I got married on Saturday.
Wait, really?
I went to Italy for 2 weeks, and then I came back and started my new job at HBO.
Wait, are you serious? You literally lived a whole
Yes.
So did you do anything when you got? But was that like the most intense week of your life?
Yeah,
or
it was a pretty eventful week in my life. I think it was the most impactful in my life. It changed my life, both my personal life and my career, because I've been since then. I've been married for 20 something years, and I've been in the entertainment industry for 20 something years. So really, that week was the week that changed the course of both my personal and professional lives.
Okay, congrats on both of those fronts. Doing one of those things is a handful. Doing both of them in the same week is amazing.
If I was to say only one of the partners of the firm went to my wedding, they were really angry. So.
They were like, "It's your fault." Now he's completely changed his life, changed his career. She was too inspiring, completely. But other than having an absolutely phenomenal week, you are also transitioning into essentially a new phase of life with this new information I got. So how was it coming back, starting a career now in the corporate world, and at the same time, at one of the biggest companies in the entertainment industry? I mean, you essentially used a combination of passion and hard work to kind of propel you there, which in of itself is phenomenal. But now being there and having this lens of law, having this slight lens of entertainment before that, but now having to learn kind of the corporate world of it. What do you think were the major lessons that you had to learn hitting the ground running?
So I got in and I was in heaven. I was all of a sudden in HBO. Had left the big crazy law firm. So I do think that it required a lot of change, because corporations are very different than law firms. Lawyers are for the most part, especially in law firms, not necessarily business people. And I think a business mindset is very different than a law firm mindset. So and I think just getting in there, and at the time it was a very small legal department, and there were so many different areas that were going on. The majority of the work we did was distributing the HBO Cinemax premium channels, but also a bunch of other channels that were part of the group. So we distributed basic cable channels too. At that time, HBO Latin America was a partnership between HBO in the U.S., Ole Communications, which was a family-owned media company from Latin America, Sony Pictures, and the Walt Disney Company. So all these four partners were the partners at that time of HBO Latin America. So the channels that were owned by those studios were also distributed by the group. So not only did we produce HBO and Cinemax and distribute them, we distributed Warner Channel and Sony Channel and A&E and History and all these other all these other basic television channels. So a bulk of the work was distributing those channels, but then there was a bunch of other things like acquisition of content, production of content, satellite deals, sending our signals up to space, sending out equipment to 800 different cable operators in Latin America, and taxes and customs and then labor laws, because you have all these employees and labor laws in different countries and different tax regimes and just so many different things that all of a sudden it was like, wow. And everybody calling you, hey, you're the new lawyer, I need help on this, I need this. So just getting people calling you from all sides and just having to refocus. And when you're an associate at a law firm, it's the partner calls you and you got to do whatever they say. Here, if you did that, you'd go crazy because you have 20 different departments calling you asking you for things. So you have to change your mindset as to, okay, well, what is my role here? I'm now an executive at a company. What I bring to it is my legal side, but whatever I should be doing has to be to further the goals of the corporation. So then it changed to, well, what's important and what's not important, and prioritizing. I need to focus on things that are going to move the company forward into the goals they want to achieve that year. So it really forced me to, I think, really learn the business. Create really tight relationships with the different department heads, understand what their goals are, and then kind of focus my work on helping them achieve those goals, as opposed to being someone that just, yes, I'll do this for you now. I'll do this. So I had to learn how to prioritize and make sure that everything that I was doing was was to move forward the company and whatever goals I had for that year. And at the same time, since I loved this, I really got into the nitty gritty of every department. I kind of forced myself into every meeting and just really tried to learn the business, the cable TV business from the ground up.
That's a very entrepreneurial mindset. I don't think a lot of people realize that. And again, call it a business mindset, call it, whatever. I think that is a very valuable tool that most people don't even know. And I have no idea whether it comes naturally, whether it stems out of passion. I'm not smart enough to answer those questions, but I definitely think that it's a distinct way of looking at work, looking at the things that you do on a day-to-day basis, compared to what, as you said earlier, just answering and doing what you're told. And again, that's a bit of a leap, like nobody can teach you that. And
No.
One thing that I always joke is like, in business, it's like if you don't have, like, you have to make the decision yourself, and nobody's going to come in and say you got an A on this decision. Right. It either works or it crashes and fails, and everyone's mad at you, and you have to live with that. That's how the mindset. That's the risk associated with that. Having that mindset, and again, your natural passion and hard work ethic. How do you think, or maybe not even which one, but what combination of this, or what other skills do you think propelled you, like, upwards in your organizations that you served? I mean, you eventually became, even not just at HBO, but even at Discovery, vice president and regional counsel there. That doesn't happen to everyone. So what did you do differently that enabled you to kind of grow into the organization itself?
Look, I think, and I call this the don't be an asshole policy. I think it's treating everybody with respect and getting along well with people. I think that's been a difference. I think I've always developed good relationships with my coworkers or clients or whoever, or people in the outside world, and just I think the people skills part of it. So I really think it's a combination of maybe four things. Obviously passion, hard work, having being somebody that people like to work with, and obviously luck. The luck always plays a big role in this stuff. But I mean, I think that I think it was my interpersonal relations with people. I really do enjoy, being with people and working on a team and that kind of thing. So I think a lot of my, I guess success going forward from there, like moving up in different positions, has been due to the fact that I think, people have enjoyed working with me, which I think goes a long way. So I think it's having good people skills. And like I said, treating people with respect. I just don't. I've always tried and made an effort to treat people well, at whatever level, up or down. So I think that's helped me in my career. And basically when this, I went out with the sales team. I met all the cable operators. I really developed relationships within the industry, and even up with our partners. With the people from Disney, with the people from Sony. And the people at HBO in New York. So I really developed strong relationships with those people. So when I got this job at Discovery, it's almost, I had been at HBO for 5 years. I loved it there. I was doing well. But then, the guy who was the general counsel of Discovery Latin America at the time, who happens to be today the president of Warner Brothers Discovery Latin America, but he was the general counsel of Discovery at the time. Had met him at some sort of industry function, and he invited me to lunch. And halfway through lunch, he said, "Look, there's an ulterior motive to this. I'm moving to Brazil because Discovery is going to open up an office in Brazil, and I'm going to become the general manager of Discovery Brazil, and I need somebody to replace me as the general counsel here." And everybody asking in the industry, whether it's the cable operators or it's the studios, your name keeps popping up. So I figured you were the guy. Would you be interested? And I said, not really. I love HBO. I'm doing well here. And he said, well, look, at least come and meet the president of Discovery Latin America. He's a great guy. Meet the team. It's a very special team that we have here. So I did. I met the team, and they really were great. And I really loved the vision that they had for Latin America. And then I kind of went back to HBO, and I spoke to my boss, and my boss was really cool about it. He said, look, my boss was the general counsel of HBO Latin America. And he said, look, I think in life, whenever you're given the opportunity to move to the next level, you got to take it. He's like, you're ready for this. He's like, I'm not going anywhere, so here you're kind of stuck under me. So I'm totally supportive of you doing it. In fact, he goes, I think it looks good on me that you would get asked to do this role. So that was very cool of him. And in my life, I've also been blessed to have very, very good mentors who have helped me throughout my career and given me good advice. So then I basically so I moved over to Discovery, and then I was there for 7 years as their general counsel for Latin America. But I did different roles. My role grew. At one point, I was handling all the legal work for Southern Europe. So I was doing Spain, Portugal, Italy, and France. I was doing stuff for the U.S. Hispanic market. And eventually, my role became much more of a business role and more of an advisor to the president. More of a consigliere. So towards the end of my time there, I was more of the right hand person and business advisor to the president. And which led to my jump from the legal side to the commercial side, because we were negotiating our renewal deal with DirecTV, which is obviously a very big contract negotiation, a tough contract negotiation. And interestingly enough, in that negotiation, the person representing on the business side, the content side, DirecTV Latin America, was a former colleague of mine at White & Case. We had both started as lawyers at White & Case, and we had both moved into this industry. So then I ended up, and it was a tough negotiation. And our head of distribution said, "Look, I know this person is a friend of yours. Why don't you come in and try to help, get this thing through?" But it was a tough negotiation. So she had changed since we worked together. She was tough, but and I said I love her. She's great. But it was a very tough negotiation. But we finally got it done, and then we were having a celebratory dinner to celebrate this deal, and I was there at the dinner with my friend and with the president of DirecTV Latin America. And they were saying, well, how come you were negotiating this deal on the business side? Are you leaving the legal side? And I said, well, at this point I do everything but the windows and the floors. I kind of my role is all encompassing here at Discovery. And I said, well, look, if you're really interested in making the jump, we are doing a deal with AMC to bring AMC networks to Latin America, because AMC had not launched, and AMC was having a moment with Mad Men and Breaking Bad. So it was, and then they didn't really have a presence in Latin America. So I said, we're going to bring this. We're doing a partnership with them, and we need somebody to run it. Is that something that would be interesting to you? And I was like, wow, I loved Mad Men and Breaking Bad. It was so I said, yeah, this would be great. So I went up to New York and I met with the COO of AMC at the time, and the staff up there, and it was just really cool. And they offered me the job to. So I was kind of like the first, I guess, employee of AMC Latin America. I worked out of my laundry room. I hung a Mad Men poster in my laundry room. That was the first office of AMC Latin America, and we basically, I became a sales and marketing guy, and I basically just got on the road, visiting these, 800 or so cable operators all throughout Latin America, selling them these AMC and Sundance channels and some of the other channels that we were distributing at the time.
Absolutely brilliant. I'm going to pause a minute and just show this photo of you, I think the founder of Discovery, while you were there.
So yeah, that's John Hendricks. That's the founder of Discovery, who's a really, a pioneer, one of the most, I would say, important pioneers in the cable TV industry. Discovery was really one of the first cable channels, and really a lot of what the cable industry became was invented by that one man, John Hendricks. So that was an honor. Meeting him and having that experience, being able to work with him, in my years of Discovery. I loved my 7 years of Discovery. I really, I made so many good friends there, and it's a great organization, good people.
I think it's a real testament to, what a joy you must be to work with, that all your bosses are happy for you and you get another offer. They're like, yeah, you're amazing, go. I think
well, actually, the president of Discovery Latin America was not very happy, but we've made up since then. We're very close.
No, and okay. So moving to your new role, okay, you mentioned that you're meeting these 800 cable operators. You're meeting all of these people, and moving into the business, the sales side of things. This is another completely different acquired skill set. It's different from entrepreneurship. It's different from law.
Oh, I think you froze harsh. I don't know if it's me or you. I think.
Sorry, have I returned to the land of the recording?
Yes, you're back.
Okay, but yeah, so talking about your role moving into this more sales, this more business side of things, that mindset of being able to convince, to be able to speak to people is completely different from that the entrepreneurial mindset, that law mindset, that music mindset. So yet again, you have to completely hit the ground running with this. And just from my tiny small experiences, sometimes the conversations that are happening with the people you're selling to and the people who are at the executive level in your organization can be very different, and the expectations can be different.
That is a brilliant and insightful statement. That is correct.
Again, from my tiny experiences, I'm sure you've seen that tenfold compared to me. So how do you reconcile that, especially if you're going out there and you're meeting these people? And how do you make sure that you're making, again, a deal in the best of terms, where everyone wins and everyone's happy to kind of come on board?
Well, to me that was the hardest part, and you nailed it. I mean, you got this. I mean, this is exactly the kind of the pressure you get from both sides, and because when I took this job, it was also at a turning point in the industry. I mean, this industry, as we know, has completely changed. It's somebody detonated a bomb and the whole industry exploded. And I don't know if who detonated that bomb, if it was Netflix or it was Disney, or it was Disney as in a reaction to Netflix or whatever. But basically, this was a business model that for many years had been a great model. It was a dual revenue stream model where you basically, the cable operator would, pay you a license fee for subscriber on one side, and you do like a 3 to 5 year deal in Latin America. In the US, I think there were longer deals. And then you would also get ad sales revenue. So you have dual revenue streams. Negotiations were always tough, but at the end of the day, subscribers were growing, the business was growing, and you go to the cable operator and say, "I've got 10 channels," and they say, "Well, I need 20." It was for like the first 20 years of the business, it was a great business. And then when Netflix came in as a big disruptor, and brought into streaming, I think it scared a lot of people. And I think a lot of people were quick to kill the golden goose of the dual revenue streaming business and launch their own streaming services and kind of skip the middleman. And as we know, the result of that is that everybody's lost a lot of money and people haven't realized how to recover those old revenue streams. But so on the one hand, I've got these cable operators who are telling me, the business is changing. I need more on-demand content. I need more of this. It can't just be, just the linear channels as it was before. My margins are tighter. I'm losing subscribers to streamers. And on the other hand, going back to the studio and saying, no, you gotta, you gotta raise these rates. We can't give you VOD content because we've licensed all their VOD rights to Netflix. And then, but then the cable operators are like, well, Netflix is my competitor. So, I don't want your channels. If you're gonna give your video on demand content to Netflix, then your channels aren't worth that much to me. So I'm gonna pay you half. So it's that kind of that struggle between the studios all of a sudden saying, hey, we want to keep our cable revenue stream, but now we want to, start making money off the streamers who are then, supposedly taking subscribers away from my bread and butter clients. So it was a very tough, I think, trying to trying to get what your clients wanted on one side and trying to meet the demands of corporate on the other.
And in a way, it's kind of those one of no win scenario. No, I wouldn't say no win scenarios, but it's like it's not a problem which everyone can walk away with 100% of things that they want. Right. And I think people are still trying to solve it. So I'm not going to ask you if you have the $1 million answer. If you do, DM me. We'll work on it like separately from this call. But what do you think was the skill that all of your experiences brought you, that gave you, that enabled you to at least cope and mediate and not get everyone setting themselves on fire throughout that? What do you think was the skill that you had that enabled you to kind of, push through and still continue growing, still continue moving and making, the business happen?
Well, I think for me, it goes back again to the relationships I had built over the years. I had always gone, like I said, to all the sales meetings with the salespeople. So I had developed, really good relationships with all of the decision makers at the top, cable operators throughout Latin America. So they trusted me and they knew that I was always a straight up person. So it was so that that part of it really helped. I mean, in fact, the first deal I closed was at a sales convention that was in Panama, and it was with a cable operator from Ecuador. And the last conversation I had with that cable operator wasn't the pleasant one, because we were having we were having a deal dispute, a contract dispute, and it got pretty heated. So when I met with him now as a salesperson for another company at this event, I didn't know what to expect. And he was so gracious, and he said, look, I want to be the first deal that you sign. So, and it was based on that, just because he goes, because, I think, yeah, we had a tough time, but you were always a very straight shooter, and you were always a fair person, and I want you to succeed in this, and I want to be your first deal. So, in my first conference, my first deal was with, the largest cable operator in Ecuador with this person, because, I had the relationship. And then all these doors opened for me. Obviously, the negotiations were tough, and I was hoping to get some better deals than the ones I eventually got because of my relationships, but business is business and friendship is something else. But I think the fact that I had relationships with these people opened a lot of doors for me that probably would have been closed to a lot of people. So I think if I wanted to meet with the CEO of any of these companies, they would immediately meet with me because they had that long relationship with now. Would they negotiate really difficult with me, and it wasn't the deal necessarily that the people upstairs wanted? Yeah, that's business. It's a different story, and you have the leverage that you have, and all gloves are off when you're negotiating. But in terms of what I think helped me was really those long-standing relationships that I had built with a lot of people in the industry.
I really, really appreciate hearing that. Like, you have no idea, because I think, like, just as someone who sometimes I call on the front lines of making the sales, meeting the clients and doing that, I always worry that, I come off unlikable at times, just because, like, sometimes, as you said, there are things that I can't move on. There are things that, as much as I love the person I'm talking to, as much as I really want to help them and I really want to work together, that may not always be aligned. And vice versa. Sometimes I annoy the shit out of our team
Right.
because like I really want to make this partnership work. So I'm glad that, people recognize you not just because, you were nice to them all the time, but because of your character and the way that you got the job done and the way that, they remember you for being the straight shooter, being the person who, gave their best and they're all in their role at the time. And it's just nice to hear that that pays off and that is rewarding. And I will, feel a little less bad about having to be not 100% nice all the time. So
No.
I'll take that in. And you had some amazing, I would say, opportunities, doors that were open. I'm going to show you, the photo of you at the Tony Awards. Like, what on earth? Tell me how what is the story behind that?
So one of the channels that when I was at AMC that we distributed was a channel called Film and Arts, and we had the exclusive rights to broadcast the Tony Awards in Latin America. So as part of that, we had tickets. So I would take clients, and that that was a great award show. I've been to several award shows, and the Tonys are fun because it's Broadway, so it's all entertaining, and you get to watch recreations of scenes from Broadway shows, and the star power at these things is nuts. So I was a menace at those Tonys because I went to I had tickets to the after party at the Plaza. So this was at the Radio City Music Hall. I went with my wife there, and we and some clients, and we went. It's funny because before the show, I decided we should probably eat something. So we went across the street from Radio City Music. I think it was at Del Frisco Steakhouse or whatever. And other people had my idea to have an early dinner there before. You had to be on the red carpet by like 6 or something. So it was like, some 5 o'clock, early thing. But I'm in there and, there's all these celebrities in there, going to the show. So, I had an encounter with like Larry David in the bathroom. I love Curb Your Enthusiasm and Seinfeld. So, I'm like washing my hands. There's Larry David. I'm like, Larry, and my hands are wet. He's looking at me. It was almost like an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm. I almost heard like a little music in the background. And then afterwards, we went in a bus from the Radio City Music Hall to the Plaza, and a short distance. But I'm in the bus with like Helen Mirren. I'm sitting next to Ken Watanabe's dad because he had just won an Emmy or been nominated a Tony for The King and I. So I'm with all these people, and we go to the Plaza, and all these celebrities are there. And then all of a sudden, I see Sting walk by. Sting is like one of my heroes, So, I totally fanned out on him. And I'm like, Sting, I love you. Your music is meant. And he's looking at me like, who's this crazy guy? Where's security? And he's got these like piercing blue eyes. He's looking at me. What's wrong with this guy? My wife is like, you're so embarrassing. I can't take you anywhere. But it was fun. That was a fun night.
No, absolutely amazing. And like you had the Tonys, you had the Sundance Film Festival. I have to talk about this.
The Sundance Channel we used to distribute. So we would so I went, several years in a row. We would take, I would take different cable operators from Latin America up there, and it was fun. We would ski during the day and watch movies at night and have nice dinners. It was just a fun. That was really a real fun time, I think. When I did that.
No, you have all these amazing experiences. You work with some of the biggest names, in the industry. They know you from from your career. They respect you. They're willing to work with you and they're excited to do so. So I guess my question is, just as we start to wind down, how do you remain humble in the face of all of this success when you're, having, dinner across the room is, famous musicians and actors and so on? How do you remain centered as a human being? Like
my high school friends.
Really?
They remind you constantly.
That was not the answer I was expecting, but like
my children who tell me I don't know what I'm talking about at all times. My 15-year-old son who says I don't know anything and he knows everything in the world. But no, so yeah, no, I think it's I've been very blessed, and I think it's that realization that I'm lucky that I try to stay the same. I mean, I'm very much a family guy. Like I was telling you at one point we were. I'm a soccer dad on weekends. So I think there's a lot of things between my parents, my friends, my kids, and my wife to keep me humble.
Okay, I'll go call my sister after this and be like, yo. I need the vibe check. Okay. Uh, Now in your role, as you kind of see, as we alluded to earlier, so many things are changing, so many things are happening. And I feel terrible about asking people this because like everyone's like, we live in unprecedented times and every industry is shaking from tech to, finance to entertainment. Again, without talking about, what the current debate is, because that's always changing. I think the one consistent thing is change and the fact that there is constant uncertainty, and that is probably only going to grow exponentially in the years to come. For people who are entering, potentially the entertainment industry, that's the dream, right? Or people looking for careers here. What are the things that they need to be doing differently, or the characters, the mindset that they need to have to survive in this entertainment world where you're not even sure, like 2 years from now some new technology is going to come in and change the way we look at things again. What can we expect going in, and what do we need to have, what do we need to do to be ready?
Well, look, I think that's a great question. I mean, that is the best question. And like you said, this is evolving, and everything evolves. But I think in the entertainment business, especially in the last few years, it's rapidly evolving. So I think you need to have two things. First, I think you have to understand the fundamentals, right? Because technology changes, right? So and technology, and I use my industry because it's what I know. When it was television is going to kill radio. It was movies are going to kill, movies going to kill, the movies are going to kill TV, and then whatever it is. I think there's always been kind of a great panic that it's the end. But really, technology evolves, but the business fundamentals have stayed the same. This is still a business where you have talent and you produce something with that talent, and you try to make as much money from that product as possible by slicing it into windows and things. So whether that window is a radio show, a TV show, a home video, a movie, or it's a streaming service or a fast channel, it's still a window and it's still a slice of a pie you're trying to do. So I think you always have to keep in mind what the fundamentals of the business are, and then just have an open mind to not just always do things the same way. I think when people get stuck in no, we've always done it this way, so it has to be this way. No, you can't. Things evolve and things move. So you have to evolve. So I think they're going back to an earlier question you had made as to how does being a lawyer help you for that? I think law school teaches you, like I said, how to think and see in different perspectives. So I think that skill of being able to, all right, you understand this is still a simple business at the end of the day. It's just then having the perspective to see how many different ways you could apply that model to. So I think it's just being able to, and just staying abreast of all the situations. I mean, I'm lucky that I'm in an international business that I can see what's happened in the U.S. and then usually what's happening in Europe, and then see what Latin America usually runs a few years behind. So I can see what are the trends here, and then how it's going to develop here, and how I could influence things in my region based on what has happened in another region where I live in. So,
No, that's very true. It's kind of like having a little bit of a head start in some ways.
different markets and things don't work, and different dynamics. You can't compare. One mistake that people make, and I see a lot, especially people that work just in one area, like if you in one country, like I said, if you just work in the U.S. or you just work in the UK or whatever, you think that the rest of the world is just like your country. When, as you know, and you're from Malaysia, and this, every country is completely different, and even in Latin America, it's not one monolith. There's 33 different countries, each of a different culture and tax environment and political environment and socioeconomic environment. So I think Argentina has very little to do with Mexico. So I think you have to. I think working in an international environment helps you realize that not every you can't fit the same model in every single market.
No, I really appreciate that because even within a country, different regions can think and operate.
And Rio and Sao Paulo are two completely different places in the same country, Brazil. So
like Brazil has a different climate in different parts of the country. So that itself should bring some alarm bells for all of the people who love generalizing, regions into buckets. But I really appreciate that perspective and everything that you've shared being on the show with us. I think you brought us full circle, and I really do hope that you had just as much as fun as we did listening to
Yeah.
you. And thank you so much for being on the show. I really I'm thankful for the time that you've taken out, spending it with us here this morning.
Well, Harsha, thank you for inviting me. This is great, and good luck to you, and much continued success to you, and to everybody out there watching this or listening to this.
Thank you. And with that, I think our episode for today, comes to a close. As sad as we are, to everyone there, make sure now the streaming channels to support. Wink, wink, like guys, be like now who's on your side. But anyway, thank you so much for joining us. And as always, this has been Changing Reality. We're on Thursdays at 10 p.m. Eastern. See you guys again next week. Bye.
You're listening to Changing Reality. Changing Reality, where we bend reality all across the world. Only on WQHS Radio.